Good morning, everybody. So I wanted to share where I'm at in this journey. So my doctor asked me to get a Nutrisense continuous blood glucose monitor, and I have it on right now. You can see it through the shirt. So this is just the covering that goes on top of it. And then under that is the actual glucose monitor. So this was actually an interesting device that I thought would be a lot of fun because I like to know I like a lot of data. So I like to know if I eat something or if I'm doing something, how is my blood sugar reacting and what's going on. So I do have a high or high-ish A1C. I've known about it for a while and I've tried to regulate it through diet. But I've never had anything like a continuous blood glucose monitor, which I think will be a lot of help because as I'm eating and charting and taking a look at my blood sugars, my body isn't reacting to everything the way that I assumed it was reacting. So for me, this is actually a lot of data and a lot of information that I can eat something and then watch it for the next 3 hours to see, does my body really like it or does my body hate it or what's going on? And then on top of all of that, I'm learning how to eat meals properly to blunt the blood sugar spike. So I think that is all extremely interesting information that I wish I had had 20 years ago. So it's a whole new world with the Nutrisense blood glucose monitor. So just about the monitor itself, and this video is not sponsored by them. They have not asked me to make this video. I just wanted to make that very clear before I start talking about it. Now, their customer service is top notch. For me, if I have any type of issue with the monitor, and I've had several issues come up, I'm able to get in touch with them very, very quickly through their app. And if something's wrong with the monitor or sensor that is out of my control, like some kind of technology issue, they just put another one in the mail. So how it works is you get the monitor and you wear it for 14 to 15 days, I think is the length of the monitor. And then you put in a new one at the end of the 15 days. The device, the app, calculates what day you're on so that it can remind you when it's time to change. But if you have any device issues, like I put in my very first monitor, and right off the bat, it just wasn't working and they wanted me to try it for the first 24 to 48 hours. And we did everything they asked us to troubleshoot and it just wasn't working. But when I pulled the monitor off of me, we could tell that the needle had bent. Instead of just going in straight, the needle had bent and just wasn't functioning properly. So it was kind of like a mechanical issue with the needle. Maybe it wasn't strong enough or whatever happens mechanically, it happened. So moving forward after that, I had the monitors for about a month before I ran into the next issue with one of the monitors. And I was on day 12 or 11 and the monitor just stopped working. It stopped scanning. It stopped doing everything. And they put another one in the mail, but I had to go for about 4 or 5 days without monitoring at all. And then once the monitor came in, which is this one, I'm able to put it in, and then it takes me about 24 to 48 hours to actually calibrate it correctly. So by calibrating it, I mean that I check my blood sugar levels with an at-home blood test and then compare it to the monitor. And then you can calibrate, give or take, so that it's more close. So this particular new monitor that I got, I noticed that it was reading very low levels, like extremely low levels. And so I know it just wasn't calibrated well or correctly. So you have to calibrate the monitors yourself, either by using blood tests that your doctor orders or at home blood glucose testing. So Either way, for the first 24 to 48 hours, you can't really trust the readings until it's been calibrated. And they ask you to calibrate it twice. They ask you to calibrate in the first 24 hours and then calibrate again in the next 48 hours. So I just calibrated for the first time at 24. So tomorrow morning when I wake up, I will calibrate it one more time, and then it should be pretty much on from then on. So my only complaint about this is there is somewhat of a lag time. If a sensor goes down and you don't have another one at home. So for the month, they do send out 2 sensors. So that's not like they're sending out one at a time. They do send out 2. When I had the issue, it was with the second one for that part of the month. So when it went down, I did end up having to go 4 or 5 days without the sensor. And then once I put the sensor in for the first 24 hours, it was tracking really wildly. And so I couldn't even really rely on the data at that point. So at the end of it, I would have been down about a week without any good data, and that could be a problem. So I'm hoping not to run into any more issues with the sensor so that I can just kind of track every month. And what I'm doing is making note of exactly what I'm eating and what I'm doing so I can see how my body reacts. With that, with wearing the sensor, I did notice during the day, I was struggling with blood sugar numbers being too high. So what I started doing was reading up, and finding out information on how I can blunt the highs, because I am struggling with that. So I have managed to keep the highs much lower during the day. And I've got it almost down to a science now where I can pretty much run all day without having any type of a major spike. And by a major spike, I'm meaning going over 140 of blood sugar. And that's, after you have eaten 2 hours later. I want to keep it under or at 140 and not above. So that's what I'm trying to do. And I'm trying to learn how to eat properly or differently so that I can take care of the spikes ahead of time. So something that I'm learning that I didn't really realize or have to know before is that if I mix fiber, fat, and protein with my carbs, I do a whole lot better. So that is part of the learning curve that I'm on right now, is what can I mix or eat with those carbs to blunt the spike. So something that is interesting with all of this is a lot of times we tend to think that our blood sugar isn't working properly and we just eat keto or we eat no carbs at all. And that's kind of the mindset I've always had going into this. So prior to this, I was eating keto for the most part or extremely low carb, and it was just to control blood sugars going up and down, too high or too low type of thing. But I'm learning you can actually eat carbs and blunt the highs and the lows by eating it properly. And I'm trying to be as reasonable with myself as possible, because whatever changes I make have to be lifelong at this point, right? I'm trying to improve my health. I am trying to do what my body needs. And I have failed almost at everything before this, not because I couldn't stay on a diet, but because something just wasn't quite right all the time. And I'll talk about that in later videos, like what wasn't right about keto for me, or what wasn't right about any of the other diets that I've tried. And when I say diets, I'm not talking about diets just to lose weight. I'm talking about diets to stay healthy is what I'm struggling with, because my body just isn't quite like everybody else's. And I'm finding out that by doing individualized medicine here, working with a doctor who orders tests above and beyond what a regular doctor could order, and then reading that and then adjusting your diet and supplements according to that, and then testing again to see how we're actually responding to that. I kind of like that viewpoint better than the old do what everybody else does and you'll feel fine, because my entire life I have not been able to do what everybody else does, and it worked. Like it's never worked. So I always thought, was I doing something wrong? Was there something wrong with me? Maybe I didn't do the diet properly enough. Like I could come up with a million reasons why it wasn't working for me, and then keep trying and trying and trying again until here we are. I'm making these videos. I have lupus. I'm having walking issues. I mean, you name it. Health wise, it just keeps going downhill. So what I'm doing is stopping that downhill motion and trying to move everything uphill and live a healthier, better life. And I think individualized medicine will help me with that route. Now, the Nutrisense continuous blood glucose monitor was the first step. I have done testing. I've done blood testing. I've done all kinds of testing you don't even want to know about. And I'm waiting on a lot of those results to come in. I've had some of the results come in. Now I'm waiting for the rest of the results. And until all of the results are in, I don't have a really steady plan. But for right now, it's monitoring where I'm at right now, what I'm eating right now, and how my body reacts to it. So I was extremely surprised to find out that my most favorite meal on this entire planet does not do well with my blood sugar. So part of what I'm finding out is like my standby meals shouldn't be my standby meals, and I need to replace it with something else. So I was devastated to learn that eating tacos on a corn tortilla was horrible for me. Any type of corn chips or corn tortillas or corn so far has not passed inspection with my numbers. It's done. Probably corn is probably so far the worst thing that I found that I could ever eat. Like I could do better on a candy bar type thing. Like that's how crazy it is. So my body just right now isn't liking the corn processed products. And really my go-to meal has been a taco on a corn shell or corn chips with salsa. Like that was like, if I'm eating out and was eating bad, I would eat that thinking I was doing better. Come to find out, I can't handle the corn products at all in any way, shape, or form. But I did find that I do very well on the almond tortillas, almond flour tortillas. Those I do very well on. So I'm not going to try and get too far off track. I have a lot of things to talk to you guys about, but this was just about the continuous blood glucose monitor. I am monitoring 24/7. As I figure it out, I'll talk about it here. Like, what can I eat? What is good for me to eat? Like, what I'm trying to find right now is like the safe list of dishes and foods that I know will not spike so that I can use them on the days I don't want to think about it, on the days I don't have time to prep. I want to know, like, what are my 5 foolproof meals and I can eat and know I won't spike my blood sugar. So that's what I'm finding out and figuring out as I go through the process. And I was quite honestly shocked at how much you can blunt a sugar spike just by eating a certain way or properly, or adding fats, fiber, and protein to your meals. So I'll talk more about that in the future as I figure it out. Right now on a learning curve, I'm at the baby steps of trying to figure out what my blood sugar is reacting to and how it's doing. So what I figured out was, like, during the day, it was a roller coaster going up and down. And so I really had to curb some of the carbs that I was eating and cut back. Now, with that, I'm still learning that at night, my blood sugars are too high and just not cooperating as well. And something interesting that just came up with charting the few times that I've been able to chart is that on the nights that I eat more keto, like if I had a steak, onions, and mushrooms, my numbers at night are worse than if I had some form of carbs at dinner. So what I'm doing now is trying to figure out what form of carbs should it be and how many do I need to keep blood sugars normal at night. That's the part I'm trying to figure out. And I'm running into some issues figuring it out. First of all, trying to figure in the middle of figuring it out, the monitor went down. And that now I'm at the point where I know I need some carbs, but how many and what form do they need to be? Because I don't really want to eat flour or wheat or stuff like that, but maybe squash is a good alternative, or maybe, I don't know, some form of potato, maybe sweet potato would be a good form. But so that's what I'm trying to figure out right now. And last night I had steak and acorn squash, and I feel horrible today after it. And my blood sugars last night didn't do well. And this morning they're still kind of high, and it's about noon right now, and I haven't had anything yet. So it didn't like the acorn squash and the steak, but I'm not sure. What I have to figure out, was it not enough carbs, or is the squash just a no-go? Or was it the pepper that I sprinkled on last night? So those are the things I have to figure out, and it's not easy. So a lot of people will say, oh, if you have blood sugar problems, don't eat carbs, or don't do this, or don't. And it sounds easy, right? They kind of make it sound easy, but it's really a complicated matter, because one of my tests was half an apple with cashew butter, and I did fine. I had no carb issues with that whatsoever. And honestly, I didn't think I would be able to eat an apple because of the carbs. So it's figuring out, what can I eat, what has enough fiber that it does well, what has enough fat or protein, or what can I add to the meal so that if I do decide to eat a few potatoes, I won't spike. So that's where I'm at. I'm really at the baby stages of this. And I do like Nutrisense and the continuous blood glucose. They actually use the Libre blood glucose monitor, and then you're using a Nutrisense app with that. I actually like it. I like the fact that I can eat something and then track throughout the day what I'm doing. And I can even eat all day, walk, do whatever, track blood glucose the whole time, and then even see what it's doing while I'm sleeping. Because honestly, I had no idea that while I was sleeping, my blood sugars were out of whack. Like, I had no idea until now. The only thing I knew about before was doing an A1C and fasting blood sugars and going, oh, it's a little off, eat less carbs. But now I'm seeing, yes, it's a little off, but if I can control what I eat during the day to control the blood sugar spikes, what can I do to also control it at night? And then A1C will come straight down. And it's not as easy as just saying, don't eat carbs, never eat a candy bar, never eat a potato, never eat this, and you'll do fine, because I've gone completely keto. I've gone AIP, autoimmune protocol, keto, paleo, you name it, I've done it. And going completely keto didn't solve the issues for me. There's something else going on that I need to figure out. And that's the stages that I'm at. So this isn't an easy game by any means, but it is interesting to see, what can you eat, what can you do, and then what can you do to make it better. That's the part of the data that I love. Like, I have the data. I ate such and such, and this spiked this much. I ate Thanksgiving dinner and this is what happened. But what happens if you eat that and go for a walk? What happens if you eat that and you're properly hydrated? What happens if you eat that, but you ate more fiber or whatever it is? So that's where I'm at. I'm at the baby stages of this, but I'm in, like, I love for this type of information. I'm data driven. It's just my personality. And once I see how this unfolds, I'll know what I need to do and what changes I need to make to live a healthier life and walk, like be able to travel and walk and do the things that we want to do. So that's my update for now. That's all about Nutrisense. I'll give another update when I'm another month or two in, because then I'll have a better viewpoint of what's going on, and I won't be at the baby stages. So I'll be able to have a little bit more information, but that's where I'm at. I do love the continuous blood glucose monitor. I think if you're struggling with your health, this is something that you really should check into, even if it's just for a couple of months. So I'm on month 1. I think I just started month 2, and I'm still at the baby stages of trying to figure out what's going on with my body. For some people, I think you could probably figure it out in 2 weeks. You could probably figure it out in the first month for sure. But for someone like me, it's a little bit more complex. I have a lot of other issues going on. And so it's not so clear cut or cut and dry where I know exactly what's driving. Like for now, I'm not even sure what's driving the blood glucose spikes at night, which is what my focus is right now. So even though I've been able to conquer the day, I have to figure out what conquers the nighttime spikes as well. So that's where I'm at. I'll end this for now so I don't bore everyone too much, and I'll keep up with the updates. See you guys in the next video.